Hi everyone, welcome back to Kaya Plus. Today we have a very special topic. It's for the Malaysian. If you are interested to go over Singapore for better reason, for career advancement, or of course for the better currency, we have the guy for you to answer and also give his advice because he basically spent 7 years there uh, with a lot of sweat and blood to actually build up his dream. So probably over to Japan, if let's say someone who is just new to the society or someone working for 10 years wanted to actually do a switch to Singapore, what would be your advice to them?
Well, it just was yesterday when I just came over. I still remember the memory of my first trip down to Singapore. So it was just past the bridge which connects JB or Johor to Singapore. So I took the bus because I need to, pack a lot of my stuffs over to Singapore to start my life over here. But that is just the first phase of coming over to Singapore, right? That is just the first day. But prior to that, even starting prior to even coming over, I think the most important thing that any Malaysian should have is to actually begin with the end in mind. Basically, is to ask yourself firmly, how long are you coming over to Singapore? Because that would actually determine and uh, decide what are your mechanisms or what are the plans that you need to, enforce and also uh, execute when you're over here in Singapore. So, say for example, if you are over here for just very brief period, so you're very confident that after 1 year, after 2 years, after 3 years, you'll be going back to Malaysia already, and there will be no, extended stays over here. So if that is the case, just minimize all the mid to long term kind of commitment. So don't need to think about getting endowment plans. Don't need to think about getting uh, those very long term savings plan because you might or could have already have something similar in Malaysia. And the thing is, if you do opt for that, you need to be very confident that even when you're not in Singapore, you went back already, you have the financial capability to continue to pay for this kind of monthly or annual kind of um, top ups that is required for the plan. So if you don't think you have that, so don't commit to it. But if you are someone who is actually confident of staying in Singapore for 5 years and above, 10 years, 20 years, or spend probably most of your periods of time in Singapore, then yes, you need to think about that aspect. So what is your purpose here? How long do you plan to be here will play an important part in um, determining what to do if you're coming over to Singapore.
Okay, the first purpose is probably not a purpose, but probably the major reason of it should be the currency. I would say
Yeah.
if 1 ringgit can actually turn exchange for $3 one, no one will actually consider this anymore. But again, know your purpose, make it clear, make it concise, and execute it. How about the second one? What is the second advice for the Malaysian?
The second one that I also strongly advocate is that since the strong currency is one of the key reasons of Malaysians coming over to Singapore, don't limit your earning power just to your daily job. Like we come over here, we get employed uh, for a 9 to 5 job. If your job is relatively a fixed hour kind of job, you can actually look into other avenues to increase your income. So you can go on to do a little bit of side hustle, side jobs, part-time jobs to actually boost up that. So of course you still need to do the necessary tax filings because it's still considered income. But these are so-called some of the examples of avenues that you can actually undergo to increase your earning power, right? There's no one to cap your potential in terms of your earning capability. Yes, it might be tiring. You might need to sacrifice time and effort, but if it's still within your tolerances, I think you should actually look into that as a possible way to improve and increase your savings.
Yeah, then the second advice in short is, since you are here for the great currency, you might as well just earn more through side
Yeah.
hustle. What,
Yeah.
what would be the third advice that you're going to give?
Yeah. So the third advice is a special one. Uh, is to actually think of choosing the basic insurance for your stay in Singapore. So I think some of the basics one I can think of would be health insurance and also personal accident insurance. So to clarify and to argue with those Malaysians who actually say that, oh, I already have something similar in Malaysia, why do I need to purchase another set of health and medical insurance when I'm in Singapore? So you do know that sometimes health related problems or even accidents, when they happen, they can happen anytime to you when you're in Singapore. And a lot of times, I would say most of the times, you don't get to choose if that kind of situation hits you, that you want to be transferred over to Johor just across the border so that you can exercise the benefit that offers you coverage and claims based on your Malaysian medical card. Sometimes it doesn't just work out that favorably to you. So, and if you don't have a Singapore basic insurance coverage, you might need to actually see your hard-earned money being used up to, pay up all these necessary bills incurred by your medical or even accident kind of expenses when you're hospitalized. So to actually mitigate that or prevent that from happening, just buy or consider looking up some of the basic health or personal accident insurances. Even if that happens, you are well assured that the insurance will settle most of the expenses, and you are not being forced to see your hard-earned earnings becoming payments to your hospital bills.
Yeah, so the third one is get your basic protection right. And
Yeah.
then what about the fourth one?
Well, the fourth one is also an interesting one. So the fourth one will actually be for those who have overstayed their planned tenure in Singapore. So for example, if you said you plan to stay here just for 3 years, by the third year, you actually see yourself still working in Singapore, I think that could be the indication that you might need to consider applying for PR already. So that would be the actually fourth advice. You should actually take up um, the Singapore permanent resident, uh, convert your employment pass to a permanent resident because the benefits actually outweigh the disadvantages. So the only disadvantage I can think of is that you actually need to take out um, maximum 20% of your disposable income, your take home pay, and that would be your contribution to your CPF. So your earning power will be affected. But in terms of job searching, in terms of retirement planning, and having CPF, actually one of the key advantages that we should not forget a Singapore PR has over a normal Malaysian working over here. So I think we also did a very basic comparison of Malaysian EPF and also the Singapore CPF. So both pension funds, you can actually check out that video in the links description or at the top right corner of this video.
Okay, another advice is quite straightforward. If you have the plan changed, you have decided to stay longer, go for PR.
Yes,
It basically have a lot of benefit that outbid the disadvantages. Probably it's
yes.
just less disposable income, but it will go into CPF, which is the retirement fund. It will be eventually belong to you as well. So what about the next one?
Yeah, the next one is a very controversial one, which I think that Singaporeans, Malaysians who are actually PRs or working in Singapore should not actually buy a Malaysian property for investment and retirement purposes. So if you're planning to buy a property for your family to stay and you really have the so-called savings, right, by all means go ahead. Right? This is actually just to counter argue those who are actually buying it for investment and also retirement purposes. Because one very basic reasons, Malaysian properties tend not to do well in terms of investment returns, right? So you might need to still fork out additional, the rental cannot cover your monthly mortgages. And even if you can cover the monthly mortgages, chances are you still need to fork out that additional few $100 for your condo maintenance fee. So net, and even that, if the property valuation stays flat, you still end up losing money. So this is the fact that you need to accept, that the investment potential of Malaysian properties is not there, right? So don't buy it for investment uh, purposes. And if you're actually planning to buy it for, your retirement, just think about it very straightforwardly. The property that you're buying now could be still new, but if you are planning to retire 20 years, 30 years down the road, even if no one is staying inside there, things will still age, right? The paint will still strip off, the property will look old, and you do not want to stay in that kind of setting when you actually retire. You want to stay in a better kind of surrounding, better kind of environment. So don't ever consider buying properties just purely for investment or retirement purposes when you're still young.
Yeah, I think the fifth one is don't consider buying a property back in Malaysia, even though it can be very attractive. You are paying the mortgages with something divided by three, but
Yeah.
just think thoroughly before you make
Mm-hmm.
the decision. What about the
Yeah.
sixth advice to the Malaysian?
Yeah, the sixth advice would be, if you really do have that amount of capital savings and you really don't know what to invest, yeah, do take a look and consider learning up on the Singapore companies available on the Singapore Stock Exchange. So if you are, clueless of what to actually look at, I think if you have a little bit of basics of the Malaysia stock market, like which are the banks, which are the REITs, right, dividend paying counters, the same theory can be applied when you look for such companies in the Singapore Stock Exchange. So you have your DBS, OCBC, and UOB as your banks over here. Even though quantity wise is lesser than what the quantities of listed banks in Malaysia, but quality wise, I can assure you is much more better compared to the Malaysian banks. And in terms of REITs, uh, the quality is also much better compared to the Malaysian ones, and there are also much more choices over here. So if you really want to invest for dividends, even for capital appreciation, the Singapore market is actually much more quality compared to the Malaysian markets.
Okay, so the advice in summary is to consider investing in Singapore markets, be it bank or REIT. Just if you're interested in Singapore REITs, I wanted to know what is the key differences, what is the key advantages, what is the potential risk. We have a short video covering this. We will be leaving the link inside the description, and also you can click on the top right hand corners. It will be a redirection to the video for your quick references. Okay, we have covered six. What about advice number seven, or probably the last advice you wanted to give to the Malaysian?
Yeah, so I think I have been, talking about life in Singapore, what a Malaysian should do if he or she is actually based in Singapore for, mid to long term period kinds of timeline. But if you actually plan to go back to Malaysia, or you have the thought to go back for whatever reasons, right? Be it for mental health, be it to be closer to your family and loved ones, or be it just the very fact that you miss home so much, or if you really plan to quit the hustle and bustle, busy corporate life because you really want to start up your own business, by all means, go ahead. Do not hesitate, because I think a lot of um, Malaysians who are based in Singapore, even though they have converted to PR or even citizen, the heart always stays Malaysian, right? And I don't know, maybe some of us might regret that, oh, I used to have this opportunity to go back and, start up a business, but I didn't really give much thought about it. And after, a very successful period in Singapore and ending up retiring here, they might still feel that regret. So I think life is about making the best of what you think you have and what you think you can do. And if it is time to really go back to Malaysia to do something that you love doing, by all means, do not hesitate. Right. So I'm being very impartial here. Yes, the easy way out to attaining a quality life is actually to continue staying here. But a lot of times, a lot of things are not, dictated and measured 100% by monetary and wealth. So there are a lot of things that cannot be compared with monetary means. So if you really need to go back to Malaysia to start a new chapter of your life, do not hesitate and be brave to actually take that decision.
Yeah, I think the courage need to be bigger right now because in the past few months, the 3 times just become 3.3 times overnight.
3.4. Yeah.
3.4 times. It is like a 10% increment.
Yeah.
If you're Malaysian staying in Singapore, but we hope this video give you a good overview on what to take note if you wanted
Yeah.
to consider Singapore as a next destination. Just to do a quick recap. The first one is to understand and to know why you are here, know your purpose. And then the second one is since you are here, might as well just maximize your earning power,
Yeah.
get a side hustle, be it a delivery job or whatnot, just
Yeah.
get more money. And then
Yeah.
the third one is you still need to get your basic coverage, right? Get an insurance, a basic one to
Yeah.
protect yourself.
Yeah.
The fourth
Yeah.
one is if you are staying long enough, you should consider applying for PR.
Yeah.
It basically gives you a lot more benefit compared to a normal working visa. And
Yeah.
then the fifth one will be if you are tempted to invest in Malaysia properties, think twice. There are a lot more other things that you can consider, which is lead to the next advices. Why don't just look into the Singapore stock market? There are a
Yeah.
lot of things that's very familiar for you. They have bank. I mean, Singapore have bank as well, have REITs, and so on. And the last one is, of course, out of all these considerations, if you wanted to return home, by all means, just go back. It's always better to go back to the places that you grew up, speak the same Rojak language, eat the food that you like. I hope this video basically give you some insights. And of
Yeah.
course, thanks to Joo Parn for all the honest sharing after spending 7 years with tears and blood in Singapore. Yep. Any other thing
Yeah.
to conclude? Yep.
Yeah. I think these advices might seem some of these advices might be controversial, but it has been carefully thought of. This is actually a very impartial advice, really putting your finances and your and the facts and figures up front to actually derive all of these advices. Like especially the don't consider not buying any Malaysian properties for retirement or investment purposes. Right. So I hope the video will serve as a rough guidance for Malaysians who are currently in Singapore or for Malaysians who are actually planning to coming to Singapore for their career advancements. So do give this video a like, share it to your friends and family, relatives who are currently in Singapore, and also subscribe to our channel because that actually helps to motivate us to do content like this, to be very upfront and frank, to just make sure everyone gets the right advice and right direction in planning their life over here. And if you do actually not agree with whatever we have said, yeah, the comment section is always open for healthy discussion and debates. But as of that, we will meet you guys in the next video. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.